I tend to go towards the trivial. You know what the worst things in the world are? I think traffic is one. Just that feeling. The red light, that's just a few seconds too early for you to get through. Or in Clarksville traffic is the worst, where you see it, and then you see it turn green, and then you see it turn red again, and you're like 20 feet farther away. And then you see it turn green again, and then you see it turn red, and you're still there. That'd be the worst thing in the world. Or maybe buffering, or trying to watch any video online that takes more than a couple seconds. You know what, 30 seconds, 80% of people, it's a video abandonment rate. If anything takes 30 seconds to load, 80% of us are just like, by that time, we've been like, forget it, we're out of here. At about 13 seconds, that number is 50%. So in about 10 seconds, we're like, okay, like I can't do this. Or anything that takes time to load. That would be the worst thing in the world. But there's mail, right? I pay Amazon.com about $79 a year so that whenever I buy stuff instantly by clicking on it, I don't have to wait 4 days, I can only wait 2. And so waiting for mail, worst thing in the world. Amazon Prime, probably the best thing in the world. Any button that doesn't work when we need it to is the worst thing in the world. All you need is just point it at a TV or whatever, and about after 3 seconds, we start trying to pray Satan out of it, right? That's all it takes to sour our mood. We're on cloud 9. After 3 seconds, it's like, not today, Satan. Not going to do this to me. Or maybe that would be the worst thing in the world. But recently, I sat on an airplane for 30 minutes before we even went to the runway. That is the worst thing in the world. Waiting is the worst thing in the world. You know what happens in all of the above scenarios that is absolutely so terrible? Nothing. I mean nothing. Nothing literally happens. If you have to wait for it, like that is what we can't stand. We cannot stand the lack of instant gratification. And so much of the world we live in is built on promising, giving us what we need when we need it. Watch an ad on TV and it's for faster internet. Or just 15 minutes could save you 15%. If you have to wait for it, there's probably an app for that. Whether it's getting a table at a restaurant, getting a date, movies and TV shows streaming instantly. The simple lack of gratification or reward is enough to sour our holy moods. Right? And it is this reality that just permeates everything about who we are that makes me wonder, how in the world can an impatient people like us possibly be faithful to the demands of the gospel? Because sometimes being faithful to the gospel requires us to give up our personal rewards. In other words, seeking first the kingdom of God is rarely an instantly gratifying proposal. And sometimes it is not a gratifying proposal at all. Perhaps that's because the story is not about us. There's a phrase that's said about the Catholic Church, and that is that the Vatican thinks in centuries. The scope of this life is much bigger than the right now. And I think that we, in the world of instant everything, whether it's grits or movies, transportation, we would do well to remember the story isn't about us. When we think it's just about us and we get tunnel vision in the church, that's when I think molehills become mountains. We get sucked into fighting over stupid things. And the church can fight over some very stupid things. Or we become so skittish and easily frightened as the people of God, like as if our God is so fragile. You can find Christian articles online fearing everything from China to biblical prophecy to Halloween to the young people of today. And I'm with you on that last one. But we tremble as if the world is careening through space towards hellfire itself, and there is absolutely nothing that can stop this destruction of society. And if our story in our God is only as big as what's happening to me right now, we can get scared. Church, it is my prayer this morning that we may hear the voice of God saying to us, don't be afraid. The Bible in Christian history is not the story of us, it is the story of God. And the story of God is full of people who did not get to see their work completed. People who did not get to see justice served. People who did not get to see prayers answered or hope restored. It is impossible for me to think of this without thinking about Martin Luther King's mountaintop speech, in which he said that God has allowed me to go up the mountain, and I've looked over, and I've seen the promised land. I may not get there with you, but I want you to know tonight that we as a people will get to the promised land. This is an incredibly Christian prayer. In today's text, the Israelites have been under the oppression of the Philistines for not nearly the last time. And in the midst, God shows up with a message to certain people. So I want to look at our text today, coming out of Judges. The parents of a certain young man whose name is Samson are probably a familiar passage to us. And so if you are able and if you would like, if you would stand in honor of the reading of the word this morning, that would be appropriate. We are in the cycle of Judges, this communal forgetfulness, where as soon as God delivers them, they forget and are back into captivity by going their own way. And so in Judges 13, we read with no surprise, the Israelites again did what was evil in the sight of the Lord. And the Lord gave them into the hand of the Philistines 40 years. There was a certain man of Zorah, of the tribe of the Danites, whose name was Manoah. His wife was barren, having borne no children. And the angel of the Lord appeared to the woman and said to her, although you are barren, having borne no children, you shall conceive and bear a son. Now be careful not to drink wine or strong drink, or to eat anything unclean, for you shall conceive and bear a son. No razor is to come on his head, for the boy shall be a Nazirite to God from birth. It is he who shall begin to deliver Israel from the hand of the Philistines. Then the woman came and told her husband, a man of God came to me, and his appearance was like that of an angel of God, most awe-inspiring. I did not ask him where he came from, and he did not tell me his name, but he said to me, you shall conceive and bear a son. So then drink no wine or strong drink, and eat nothing unclean, for the boy shall be a Nazirite to God from birth to the day of his death. Then Manoah entreated the Lord, and he said, O Lord, I pray, let the man of God whom you sent come to us again and teach us what we are to do concerning the boy who will be born. God listened to Manoah, and the angel of God came again to the woman as she sat in the field. But her husband Manoah was not with her. So the woman ran quickly and told her husband, the man who came to me the other day has appeared to me. Manoah got up and followed his wife and came to the man and said to him, are you the man who spoke to this woman? And he said, I am. Then Manoah said, now when your words come true, what is to be the boy's rule of life? What is he to do? The angel of the Lord said to Manoah, let the woman give heed to all that I said to her. She may not eat anything that comes from the vine. She is not to drink wine or strong drink or eat any unclean thing. She is to observe everything I commanded her. Manoah said to the angel of the Lord, allow us to detain you and prepare a kid for you. The angel of the Lord said to Manoah, if you detain me, I will not eat your food. But if you want to prepare a burnt offering, then offer it to the Lord. For Manoah did not know that he was the angel of the Lord. Then Manoah said to the angel of the Lord, what's your name? So that we may honor you when your words come true. But the angel of the Lord said to him, why do you ask my name? It's too wonderful. So Manoah took the kid with the grain offering and offered it on the rock to the Lord, to him who works wonders. when the flame went up toward heaven from the altar, the angel of the Lord ascended in the flame of the altar while Manoah and his wife looked on, and they fell on their faces to the ground. The angel of the Lord did not appear again to Manoah and his wife. Then Manoah realized that it was the angel of the Lord. This is the word of the Lord. You may be seated. In today's text, the Israelites have been under the oppression of the Philistines for not nearly the last time. So in the midst of here, God shows up with a message. Hey, there's going to be this kid, and he will begin to deliver the people from the Philistines. In the heart of their plight, at rock bottom, Manoah and his wife encounter God. Strangely. They don't even know it's God at the time. It's just enough mysterious. They don't even have directions with any more insight than the plot of Gremlins. Look, just make sure he doesn't eat or do that, and yeah, that's about it. You will be delivered from the Philistines. My guess is that many of us here have had encounters we would call and name encounters with God. Moments we were opened up to the mysterious. Moments perhaps in our toughest times. The moment God turned your life around, maybe. Your salvation or your sanctification. Anybody had these moments? Yeah. If God never shows up again, would that moment you have had be enough? Because at the end of the text, there's this throwaway line that the angel of the Lord did not appear again to Manoah and his wife. You see, for them, as real as you and me, there is no resolution. There is no happily ever after. Certainly there is no kingdom come. They pour their lives into this child, and not to ruin the story for those of us who haven't heard it, as we'll go on to it next week, the child doesn't honor their sacrifice very well. And they reach the end of their life, perhaps not even knowing for sure what reward there is. I'm reminded by a short story by a man, Philip K. Dick. And this story is about a man who discovers that insects are highly evolved beings intent on destroying humanity. The insects communicate to one another through a form of like ESP that the man is suddenly able to pick up, and he just starts hearing their thoughts. He gains this unusual skill by complete accident late one evening while sitting in his house, and the insects that he overhears quickly sense and realize immediately that he can hear them, and they send out a message to millions of other insects, telling them that this man must die. Within a matter of seconds, a mass of insects start appearing from everywhere. From out of the cracks in the wall, they slide through the slit beneath the door. They flood in from the gaps between the floorboards. But just as it would seem that everything is lost, this is a nightmare for my wife, dozens of spiders drop down from the ceiling and form a circle around the terrified man. One of these spiders addresses him saying, "You've discovered that the insects of the world are here to destroy humanity, but don't worry. We spiders have been placed here to protect you." And this vast sea of insects edges closer and closer as the spiders close ranks around the distraught man. The man cries, "Is there any hope?" as the insects circle around him in their millions. And the spiders very cautiously looking around, they say, "Well, there are a lot of them. But yes, there is hope." And they continue this fight, and as it inches closer and some spiders begin to fall, he asks again, are you sure that there is any hope? And yes, the spiders shout back, "There is hope." But eventually the insects crowd around the man, and they're crawling up him, and they're all over him. And the man, choking in his last breaths, is like, "What's happening?" He chokes. "I thought you said there was hope." "There is," replied the spiders. "I promise you there is hope. But I am dying," he shouts with his last breath. "They are killing me." "Oh," says the final spider before succumbing to the flood of insects. I'm sorry, but we never meant that there was hope for you." We just mean that there's hope for your species. As I reflect upon that story, I'm reminded of how much I want there to be hope for me now, for my circle of friends, for my life, for my dreams, the things that I want to see realized, for my church, for the world. I want to see it. I want there to be hope for me. But maybe this very narrow, selfish view of hope, or even the Christian call, is not only misguided, but it can actually be oppressive. Because I think there can be a profound sense of peace for us as we expand the concept of hope beyond ourselves and the idea of our own longevity. Whether or not we will persist as an individual is not settled one way or the other when we expand our understanding of hope, but rather it becomes kind of irrelevant. Right? Rather, we find a comfort in seeing ourselves as part of something much bigger, as participating in the ongoing manifestation of life itself and of the story of God. And that whether or not there is any hope for me or you today, there might just be hope for life. Hope that God will eternally spring forth from the dark void of nothingness. You know a bit about this hope. You know what happens on Sunday morning? The terrible thing that happens on Sunday morning? Nothing. Nothing happens on Sunday morning. No work gets done. No money is made. There's no workout achieved or no Fitbit steps reached. No sleep is caught up on. There's no studying done. There's no papers written. No emails answered. There's simply nothing. And yet, in that worst thing that could ever happen, in the nothing, God is. We know today that we have been called to this place. Whether there's hope or not, our eyes have seen the glory of the coming of the Lord. And maybe it's just a glimpse, that one mysterious encounter you had with God, but we know the truth. The Lord has a message for us this morning, and it is that our obedience has worth. The truth for many of us here today is you may never live to see someone appreciate your sacrifice, love you for who you are, recognize what you have done. But God sees, and people see. People need role models. It doesn't matter if you're a teenager or an elder of the church. People are looking for hope. They'll even take it from a spider. And when you proclaim hope by being a person of God in a seemingly godless situation, seemingly godless world, you are hope and you give hope. This series of Judges has shown us a cycle of disobedience, captivity, crying out, deliverance, and forgetfulness. But take heart today that God calls us to a different cycle of faithfulness. You know what happens on Sunday morning? Nothing. No work gets done, no money is made, no workout achieved, no studying done, no sleep, no emails. Yet in the nothing, God is. By what we do today, week after week, regardless of circumstance outside or inside these walls, we offer tradition to those who will come with us. Tradition is to community what memory is to the individual. Our children will remember. In the nothing that is Sunday, we proclaim hope from the cross, and that no matter how hopeless the God who works wonders is no doubt working. And he has not forgotten you this morning. Take heart. There is hope. If you have been working, pouring your life into a Samson that does not care, living a life of quiet obedience, wondering when the gratifying reward is going to pay off, take heart. There is hope. And there is meaning in your sacrifice. The church in the midst of the world is the gospel. These weird, crazy people, whether they're called Nazarenes or Episcopalians. These people who love and forgive and extend grace to other people, that is the message within our cycles of faithfulness or unfaithfulness, that God has not given up on this world. And from the moment we come to Christ to our dying breath, where it looks like there is just no hope, we can say, there is hope. I promise you, there is hope. This is not our story. It's the story of God. And today, our name is Manoah and his wife. And so today the text asks us, I think, who will have hope tomorrow? Because you have it today.